was fast. Okay, on. Okay, so good morning, everyone. We. Essa é a câmera? Eu falo para cá. Obrigada. Okay, so good morning and bom dia. We, as you already know, the program, but we are going to listen to Claudia Bittencourt, who is the Dean of the Business School here at Unicinos. She will give you a welcome and the start of our activities. Then I'll just show the program again. So just you remember, and we'll do some organizations of our activities, and we'll present us all. And then after, at 10:15, we will have the lecture about the economic situation and Brazilian situation and Brazilian history with Professor André Azevedo. Okay, so I would like to invite Claudia just to give you a welcome, and I'll give you the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unicinos, our campus in Porto Alegre. It's a great pleasure to have you all here today. Elisa, thank you so much for this partnership. It happens because Elisa was very close to Unicinos, even in Norway. So she's still welcome home again. I hope you enjoyed this week, and we have planned some activities for you. And Khadija and Danielle, they are very connected with you during all the week. And you have a couple of students that are going to be with you. So just in case you need any help with anything, you can contact them or me or one of the professors. Hope you enjoy Porto Alegre. Our climb is not exactly as today, but today is a good day for us. But tomorrow probably have some rains, but Porto Alegre is a rain city during this time of the year, but I think you enjoy anyway. If you need anything else, please just contact us or the secretary that's in the downstairs, level B. She'll be very happy to help you as well. So welcome. For us, it's very important for our internationalization strategy to have you here during this period. And we are very happy with our partnership with Stavanger University. We hope that you have a long-term partnership and that you come back soon many times. So feel yourself at home and contact us every time that you need us, okay? Welcome.
Consegue botar para mim essa apresentação? É possível?
Quer botar essa apresentação?
Esse arquivo Word.
Tem pendrive?
Não, não tem.
Tem drive, tem coisa online?
Não dá Unicinos. Não tem um cabo?
Não, aqui é...
É só... Não, tu não tem o pendrive.
Não.
E pelo Edu-ROM tu acessa? Não.
Não tem disponível no site.
Eu ia projetar o programa.
Tá no sem fio, tá conectado aí. Não tem problema, deixa eu desconectar. Desconecta e eu conecto de novo.
Tu tens o programa?
Tem o programa aquele de rede ou sim, ou usa? Esses aqui são os controles da câmera. Esse aqui é da câmera ali da frente, esse aqui é da câmera aqui de cima.
E o que eu faço com eles?
Tu pode dar zoom e mexer um pouquinho. Consegue ver aqui, ó.
Ah, tá. Tá. Obrigada. So tomorrow, you will meet your pairs in the hotel. So it would be good if you just exchange a few words with them, the ones who are here and the ones who are not, maybe by email, or if they are here, you can talk to them by camera, just to organize for tomorrow, because they will meet you in the hotel. Okay. Tomorrow, it depends on what time you have the interviews. Yeah. Okay. So this, yeah. So we have today, as I mentioned, we have the presentation now from all of us. And then after the break, 10:45, he just told me, it's the lecture about the Brazil economic situation. In the afternoon, we will have the case about the alliance from the universities, which is what you're going to interview tomorrow. I have the questions. I'm going to send you the questions, the script for the interviews. And they are in English, but the Brazilian peers can translate, of course, for the interviewee if it's necessary, if the person doesn't speak English. I guess most of the interviewees don't speak English, so you will have to count on your peers for that. But the ones who speak English, you can follow the interview in English, okay? I would advise that you all record the interviews on your mobiles or something, so you can transcribe the interviews later. And so tomorrow the interviews, you have different time schedules. It's already organized who is going where. And you already know your peers. So after we can show the interview schedule again and see what time is the meeting point in the hotel. Don't be late. On Wednesday, then we'll go to São Leopoldo to visit the campus there, which is the main campus. And Danielle organized for us several visits to the innovation portal, which is the organization, the business organization of the whole innovation strategy from the university and the links with industry. And a technology institute where they have applied research for the industry from nutrition. So it's very similar to SINTEF in Norway, which has research on food, on nutrition. And we have one institute in Stavanger at Valide, the technology park, where we will go in November. And there are other campus and other places that SINTEF has. No, it's not SINTEF, it's the other one. SINTEF is engineering. What's the name? You guys know? I will come. I'll tell you. But we have a very, very similar one in Norway, Research Institute. And then the technology park and the incubator and some firms that are located there. So we will spend the whole day in the city of São Leopoldo. So it's 45 minutes drive from here there. On Thursday, then we have the morning free for you to organize the presentations of your interviews, because each pair is going to a different environment with different people. Some will go to associations of firms, some will go to the city hall, some will go to universities, this university, other universities. So you will all gonna have different information. So it's a day to share the information in the afternoon, where we have the red ones, it's for the group work. And you will share with your colleagues who didn't go what you got from that interview. It's a short time because, of course, you are 6 pairs and each one of you will have 2 or 3 interviews. So it's just a summary of what you found out from that specific institution. What is their role in the innovation ecosystem? What is their expectations for this alliance? What you find out about the needs of the region in terms of innovation. So all the interviews will be around the involvement of institutions in the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So they are building an ecosystem, they are building relationships among several institutions to promote the innovation and entrepreneurship in this region. To develop public policy, to develop actions, to develop networks for these institutions. And the long-term goal is to develop the whole region economically through innovation and entrepreneurship. So all the interviews will be around that case. We will listen about the case itself today. So you will get an an understanding about this action that is being coordinated by universities. And this is very, very new. They have started this year to do this network of actors being led by the university. So there were, of course, networks before, but university was not the head of the whole movement. And now the universities are together to be the head of the movement. And this day started this year. So this is something new. This is something that is not so common in any country, that universities would drive the ecosystem. Usually it's a big firm or the public office. And here we have a unique case of universities that are competitors in some way, but they got together because they know that for the greater good, they will develop the whole region. And the interviews will be around that. And then the presentations also, it's a summary of what you found out from those specific institutions. So whoever will go here will talk about that institution, not about the whole region, because then we will start getting repeated information. So when you do with your peers, when you prepare the presentation, think about preparing the presentation for the informations that you got from specific institutions. And then we will have a share of information, and you can have the overview, a broad overview of the whole region and of the whole ecosystem, right? Then we'll have, well, Bjorn is not here anymore, so unfortunately, he really apologizes, but he had surgery to do. It was not urgent, and but they scheduled, and as it's the public health system, when you schedule, it's really, really hard to change. You don't have freedom of choice for the date, and they scheduled for Monday. And we just got that information last week. And so he was very excited to come, actually. And the program is aligned to his research. And he has been to Brazil only once, in Campinas, in the state of São Paulo. So he was very happy to come here and to go to the Wine Valley also, and to meet other researchers. And so unfortunately, he couldn't come. Maybe he will come in another meeting. Next year, maybe, yeah, hopefully. But we will have here, I don't know if this is going to be in English or Portuguese, the launching of the alliance. Yeah. So if it's in Portuguese, then maybe you don't need to stay here, but maybe you will meet some of your interviewees here on that day as well, because some people, the ones who are interviewed, they will be here for the involvement, most of them. And yes, and then we have a closing dinner on Thursday. Do you guys have any questions about the program?
I have the schedule here.
Yeah, okay. I have an updated one, I think, but it doesn't change much. I think it's only Bjorn that changes. And here we confirmed Embrapa for the Wine Valley. We confirmed that Embrapa will meet us at Aprovale. So Aprovale is the association of the valley, association of the firms, of the families, of the producers, of the grape farmers. And then Embrapa, which is the research institute, will meet us at their office. Yeah, that's good. In the end, we can show it. Anything else? No? Okay, so we can start presenting ourselves, just so people will have a brief overview about who you are, where you're from, what you study, what's your background. I can present myself, although I think everyone knows me, apart from you two, maybe, yeah. So I'm Elisa Thomas. I'm from Brazil, I'm from São Leopoldo, and I have worked at Unicinos since 2009 as a lecturer. I did my master and my PhD here at Unicinos. I mean, there at the other campus, not on this campus. And now I'm in Norway as a postdoctor. So I'm employed by the university. I have until mid-2020 to work at UIS. And I'm teaching a master course now, the whole course about knowledge-based entrepreneurship. And the students do a business plan for a new business. And apart from teaching, then I have research activities and involvement now coordinating the project and in other funding projects that we have at the business school. The business school has around 100 employees, if you count lecturers, professors, PhDs, and postdocs, because we are all employees. And then, of course, you have then more students. I don't know how many in the whole business school, but in the whole university, we have around 11, 12,000. So it's not as big as Unicinos. And it was an university college for many, many years. Norway had only 3 universities, and all the other ones spread around the country were university colleges. So from 10 years ago until now, we are a university. And then we have research, and the business school especially has been developing very, very fast. If you take 5 years ago, there were less than 30 employees, and now there's 100 employees. So the business school is growing a lot, and that's why last year we became an old faculty. We were from the Faculty of Social Sciences before, and last year we are our own faculty. So we are business school, independent from social science school. And this also will present chances to have more projects, more courses. We have more freedom to develop courses and to innovate in the business school, because we do our own now, our own business, and we have our own budget, which is great. And it's been a very interesting year at UIS, at the business school, because of this new faculty. So we need to establish everything, the strategy of the business school, and what courses we will pursue, if we will keep with the same strategy as we have, the same courses, or if we will develop new ones, if we will shut down some courses. So it's been a very interesting year of definitions, and that's most of the things are decided collectively. And we have meetings with all the employees to decide some things from the business school and discuss. So it's an interesting way to develop this strategy and the whole actions from the business school. And what else? Any questions about myself? No? Okay, so I'll just give you the mic round, and then you can present yourselves. Say what you study, where you're from, anything else that you would like to say. Okay?
Thank you so much. Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Rahman. I'm from Pakistan. I moved to Norway for my master's studies in 2017. My master's is in business administration and specialization in strategic management. My bachelor was from Pakistan. It was BBA, business administration and specialization in finance. After my graduation, like bachelor's, I worked in a bank for almost 3 years. During my bachelor's, I done almost 5 internships in each summer and 1 in winter. And when I moved here in Stavanger, Norway, I found a job in artificial intelligence company, and I worked there for 9 months. It was a project-based job, and they were doing some project in my country. That's why they need my skills for that. So, and now I came to Brazil. Really looking forward. Actually, all I have so far, I have enjoyed very much. So, thank you. That's
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanveer Ahmed, and I'm from Bangladesh, but I've been living in Norway for a year. So I'm studying the same course, like master's in business administration, but my specialization is innovation management, and my minor is in finance. So this is my second master's. I had my MBA in my country, and it was in finance and marketing, and I had before that a BBA, so about in accounting and finance. So I started my career with a World Bank project, research project. I was a research assistant over there, and thereafter I was promoted to be the assistant secretary of the project. Then the project got finished. I worked in a university administration, and yeah, I also worked in a Dhaka Chamber of Commerce. So yep. And now after, yes, I would like to add something with Elisa's, like our business about our business school. Our business school also got fund from I think European Union, 3.7 million euros for innovation research. I think Professor Rune is so it's yeah, it's going to be one of the best business school in Norway, and soon I hopefully. And about Brazil, yeah, I love here. It's seems to resemble my country as well. Everything is like when I walk down to the aisle and the road, it seems like I'm walking into my country. And at the same time, the weather. But for the last 1 year, I'm used with Norwegian weather, so a bit warm for me. But I love it. And another information I told in my class about Brazil, that is after Brazil, Bangladesh has it's official that Bangladesh has the highest number of Brazilian football team supporter. You can't believe how crazy we are about Brazilian football team. Like if Brazil, I mean, there is a house complete as a 7-story building and full painted in Brazilian flag, and its name is Brazil House. Yeah, it's official now. After Brazil, we have the highest number of Brazilian supporters. So we are crazy about Brazil football. That's all I can say. And thank you very much for that. I got the opportunity to come here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is In An and I'm from Vietnam. I'm studying business innovation in University of Stavanger and this master. And I did my bachelor in Vietnam and that's I study marketing and I have 2 years experience working on digital marketing and customer service. And then I decide to continue studying and come to Norway and continue as a master student in the business department. And yeah, I really appreciate and thank you for the course of entrepreneurship knowledge page that give me the chance to come here to join these workshops. And I'm really looking forward interesting things and yeah, more friends and also discover about the Brazilian culture. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina. I currently live in Stavanger in Norway, where I am taking my master in business of administration also, and I specialize in innovation. I'm taking the course that Eliza were talking about, the entrepreneurship. It's really interesting, and that's where I found that the cooperation between the universities, and that's why I applied. So it's really interesting to be here. I've been living in Stavanger for 6 years now. I took also my bachelor degree there in economics. Right now I'm a full-time student, but I've been working with Nordic Bank for 2 years, where I've been working with customers. And yeah, that's all I think. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I am Lair. I am from the Philippines, and I came to Norway just last year for the master course. And same as them, I'm also studying masters in business administration, specializing business innovation. Before I had my masters, I have my job in Qatar, which is I was working in a real estate company in accounting. And yeah, my bachelor is accountancy. And what else? Well, Brazil, yes, I loved it. I like the weather. Yeah, the first time I came, it's my first time here. And yeah, when Elisa asked us, how was it? I'm feeling like, oh, I am feeling like I'm in the Philippines. But after yesterday, when we had a walk in the park and the lunch in the restaurant, I was like, oh my God, yes, I am feeling I'm in Brazil. And I really loved it. Okay, and maybe that's all. Thank you.
Hi, I am Anette, and I'm from Stavanger, Norway, born and raised. Lived there all my life. I have shut up. I've have a bachelor degree from another university or business school in Norway, which is called BI, and now I'm studying the MBA at the University of Stavanger. And on the side, I'm working at the Norwegian tax office and been there for 4.5 years. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and visit Brazil. Thanks.
Hi again. You already know me. So my name is Claudia. I give some information about the university, maybe it will be helpful. So Unicinos Business School is composed by 3 area of knowledge: business, accounting, economics. Is one of the biggest business school in Brazil because these characteristics of integrate these 3 different areas. Before being the dean of Unicinos Business School, I used to be the head of the graduate program of business. So I give some information about the graduate program as well. Our graduate program in business is one of the top 5 programs in Brazil, in business, of course. It has about 400 students, and all the business school is about 4,000, I think, 4,000 and a half students. And the university today, I think it's around 20,000, Daniel. 20,000 students. Yeah, we used to have 30,000 5-10 years ago, but probably heard about the economic crisis in Brazil. So all the private universities reduced the number of students. We expect to improve these numbers because this campus is quite new. It's almost 1 year now. 1 year. So you see that it's completely different from the São Leopoldo campus. That's older than this one, of course. And the Unicinos is about 50 years old, so it's a quite young university. Actually, next year we celebrate the 50 years. So, my research interests, of course. I've been research about social innovation. So innovation is an area that I have interests as well, and dynamic capability as well to improve management in general, but especially in social innovation, I'm concerned about scalability. So dynamic capability is quite an interesting theory to help in this way. So welcome again.
Good morning, and nice to meet you. And welcome to Brazil, to Unicinos. My name is Daniel Pufal. I'm professor at the in administration. My field of research is innovation, especially innovation ecosystems and the interaction between university and industry. My bachelor is in administration here at Unicinos. My master is in administration. I study cooperation between firms at Unicinos, and my PhD at Unicinos was about innovation. I used to work at the industry. I have more than 35 years work, pretty old, yeah. And I became professor maybe 10 years ago. Now I'm professor. What else about? I'm the man. I'm an R&D manager at the university. Research, development, and innovation manager. In the afternoon, maybe I think 2 a.m. I will give you a little bit more information about university. Yeah. That's it.
Okay, good morning. My name is Leonardo Hoff. I'm PhD student here at Unicinos. I study economics in Catholic University. After that, I did my master in administration in Federal University in Brasilia. And I worked more than 35 years in a company as a manager. And 2 years ago, I decided to study again. Then I am the second year studying university collaboration with industry, and it's a pleasure stay here with you. Okay.
Hi all, I'm Leonardo Gonçalves. I am a PhD student in administration here in Unicinos. This is my first year in the PhD, and my master was in finance. I did it in the Federal University of this state that calls Rio Grande do Sul. We are. And I did my bachelor in business management in the Federal University too. So my research interest is in innovation, ecosystem innovation. And now I am directly inside of the Pact for Innovation that we will study. So I did the schedule with these interviews because we are in contact in the meetings weekly. So it will be nice to get this information also for my research. It will be nice. So be welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and accomplish you in the meetings. So thanks.
Hello, my name is Jerusa. I don't live here. I live near Wine Valley, where you in Caxias do Sul, and I am a master degree student. I'm studying the innovation ecosystem of Florianopolis, is another city, and I did my bachelor in the Federal University in administration, and I worked in a lot of companies. And the last 5 years, I was a project manager in a major IT company in Brazil. And now I decided to be a full student. So I just approved the project for my master last week, and I have to start now getting my data. So it's going to be a good experience to be with you in this, so I can learn how to do my work in Florianopolis. So feel really welcome. It's really nice to meet you all, and anything you need, I can help. Thank you.
Okay, so we have some time now before the lecture. Maybe we can show the schedule for the interviews, yeah? Thank you, Claudia. Thank you. Nada. Onde é que eu ligo? Nesse? Não. Agora aqui. Não? Ah, não, será feito? Ah, tá. Sim, antes da aula, um break, assim, para dar tempo do banheiro. Ah, sim, 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 eu posso mostrar para vocês, de repente, agora. Isso, mostramos os horários, e daí eu mostro e aí a gente faz o intervalo.
Okay, so here we have our schedule of interviews. We have more or less 4 interviews per person. And each one here is directly or indirectly involved in the Pact for Innovation. So we have here a PhD student from PUC, the Catholic University, as Leonardo told before. We have here employees from the city. We have here directors of startups and councilmen. He is directly involved in projects in the city about innovation also. Chairmen of IT data processing of the city. Managers from scientific and technological parks also. This is another company from private equity. And here is another startup, another manager from scientific and technological park, another employees from the city. This is the assistant of mayor. It's very nice. She is directly involved in this project. And here is another manager. He's the director of the same park from the others. Technological park from Porto Alegre. So I put a lot of talk. We have the manager of another park, the Tecnocinos, the park from Unicinos. But this week, his secretary called and she said his schedule was not available anymore. So we are trying to reschedule another from this technological park. Here we have a non-governmental organization. He is a very he's very involved in a lot of projects about entrepreneurship and innovation in our city. Here we have a very known program in Brazil called SEBRAE. This program is very strong from our government to help new enterprises, new business, and they have a very spread organization along our country, and it's very important here because we can talk with the director of the program here in our state called Derli. Here's another very involved woman in entrepreneurship in our city. We have for Skype an interview with a professor from Federal University. Baixa pouquinho para mim, Jerusalém. Conexão. Okay, here we have the innovation coordinator from our city. He is today the most involved people from government in our programs in our city. Here we have our ex-manager from Tecnocinos, the Carlos Aranha. He is not anymore in this team from this park, but he have all the history about it, so it's nice. We have here another PhD student involved in this project. Our pro-rector, academic pro-rector here from Unicinos. Here is an association of startups. He is the chairman. the president. He is François. He is from. Onde que é o François? From French, from Paris. Monica Chin, another startup director, and we are trying yet, but I think we can talk with our mayor, Nelson Marquezak. That is, he is a very como entusiasta and enthusiastic from this project. So I think we can talk with him. Here we have the student and the shadow. Here we have only 3 of ours. We have more 3 students that will help you here in the logistics and any translation. I think most of them talk English, but maybe some of them not very well. We need some translation from Portuguese. Here we have our schedule from our hours. The first interviews, coloca para cima de novo. Starts 8 a.m. So we have 3 interviews, 8 a.m. and another 3, 9 a.m. And after all, we are going through the end of the day. Okay, Lisa? Okay, sure. A Khadija, acho que ela pode entrar aqui, né?
So we have 3 sets of questions, 3 different.
Quer ligar?
Not different, but they're similar, but they make a difference for universities, for administration, and for firms or educational firms. So we changed a little bit the questions, but they are similar, so we can have an overview. So we're going to see if the questions are exactly the same, but two are different.
Não é para aqui. Não, é que ele não baixa no Outlook. Não, pode ser.
Okay, so while he's downloading, I just sent him the file. I can just talk to you about, I already talked about what we want to find out. But the questions that we suggest, they are open questions, so you can ask further questions. So if for example, they talk very little, you can, could you explain more? How did it happen? Or what was the result? Why didn't it work out? Or you can complement the questions, asking for further details, for more information and things like that. If they are talking things that are completely different, you can also say, yeah, that's very interesting, but maybe we can talk about something else. So the suggestions are for the universities or people from university. This one, it's the same for all. So talk about previous experiences of collaboration. We need an off here. So about triple helix collaboration, like example, universities with firms and regional government, or similar firm to firm, regional government to public office. So this question is going to be the same. Okay, you can see that's going to be repeated. For the universities, why do you think that universities are taking the lead on this Alliance for Innovation? Why are universities taking this role, which is not common? I'm going to send this to you. Don't worry. What are the competences that universities in this region have to take this leadership position? Why do we believe they are taking it in regards to, well, nobody's doing it, so we need to, and what are the competences? So this can be related to this, for example, maybe when they answer this, they will already have answered the competences, but otherwise you can ask. What has been the challenges so far? As the Alliance is very, very new, maybe they will say, well, I don't know, we are just starting, or, well, so far we haven't met so many times, or so far it's so open that we don't know exactly where we'll go. We don't have a flag there that we say, okay, that's where we want to go, and the T's, red T's that we have in Norway to know the way. So everything is very open. And maybe they will mention something like this, but I just want to remind you that it's so new that maybe they don't even know the challenges yet, okay? What is expected as results from the alliance, short and long term? What is the university's current involvement with innovation and entrepreneurship in the region? Is the university's participation and involvement with innovation activities going to change with the alliance? For example, well, so far we just teach innovation and entrepreneurship, but now with the alliance, we are going to do blah, blah, blah. Or we do teach innovation and we have research with industry, but now with the alliance, we hope to do, I don't know what, okay? And then about the person who you are interviewing. So who is the person? Why is the person involved? What is the role in the whole process? What are the activities that the person is going to do in this alliance? Okay. Then for the mayor, if we get to interview the mayor or the employees of the administration, from the public administration, the same first one, talk about previous experiences. And of course, they can summarize, because if it's the city hall, for example, they will have a lot of experiences. And the second one, what are the main weaknesses and strengths of the region in regards to innovation and entrepreneurship? So what they, in the municipality, what do they see as weaknesses and strengths from the region? Since they know everything that is happening now in regards to policy, what is working on? What are the best policies that they have? Because then this is working, and this could be something in the long-term activities of the alliance. What is still missing to promote innovation and entrepreneurship? Because then maybe also this is going to be something that the alliance is going to work for or is going to discuss. Why do you think the region needs this alliance? Since the city municipality has already policies to innovation, the universities are already doing innovation, firms are already doing innovation, so why is this alliance important? What is missing? Yeah. When we finish this, then maybe she can present. So you were on the break now? Okay, yeah. So let's stop and no problem. So just come here and then present yourself.
Tell them my name. Okay. Hi, my name is Marcela. I'm 18 years old, and I'm basically the new Fellowship of Scientific Initiation. I'm studying administration here in Unicinos, and I was like in my class right now, and so that's why we stopped this. What should I tell? Yeah. That's it?
Maybe after your class, you guys can talk how you want to meet tomorrow.
Okay.
We just organize that good meeting of tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. Just to present myself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marcel. See you later. Okay. Yeah, so this one is the same. You can see what is expected as a result from this alliance, short term and long term. Why do they think that universities are taking the lead? So you're talking to, not university, so you're talking to the municipality where they could take the lead. So why do they think that universities are taking the lead? And the same one about the person. So what is the role of the person in general? Maybe some people will have worked with innovation and entrepreneurship for many, many years. For example, as Daniel presented himself as the manager of Unicinos and a researcher, and he has worked in a firm. So people may have long-term experiences, and some people, like Marcela, are just involved in the new alliance now, and it's new for her as well. So what is the expertise that a person will bring to this project? Yeah. And then the last set of questions is for the firms or associations of firms or incubated or associations of incubated firms. First one is the same. Talk about previous experiences with other collaborations with other firms, with other universities. Same question about the region, what you think, and now they may have another view because they are the practitioners, they are the firms who need maybe policies or incentives or human resources or whatever, we don't know what they're gonna answer, and strengths. So why are they located here, for example? Why are they using as resources from the region? So they may give different answers. Maybe human resources is a strength, maybe it's a weakness, we don't know. Why do they think the region needs the alliance? What is expected for the alliance? Why are they involved? So why do they expect to have these results? What is the institution's involvement now in activities of innovation and entrepreneurship? What do they do as innovation and entrepreneurship activities? How do they expect to contribute for the activities of the alliance? And if their involvement with innovation activities are going to change, so maybe it's just a firm that does innovation, or just an association of incubated firms that promotes incubated activities, but now with the alliance, they may take other roles, we don't know. So let's see. And about the person, the same question. What is the person? What does the person do? Why is the person involved in the alliance? And this kind of things. Questions? In the afternoon, you're going to present a case. Yeah. Isn't it going to clash with what Danielle is going to say? Okay, yeah.
I think it's important here to know the difference. Because sometimes I tell pact for innovation and sometimes you use alliance for innovation. It's something that we are trying to communicate to everyone involved, because here we have the alliance. Opa. What is the alliance? The 3 universities. Just that. We have URGS, the Federal University, plus PUC, the Catholic University, plus Unicinos. The alliance have a lot of projects, like share a master and another projects with the parks, the technological parks, to share some assets like that. So here we have a lot of projects. One of them is the Pact for Innovation. The Pact involved also the city mayor and one of the main participants here is the city. Como é que é a prefeitura? Eu poderia falar? The city hall. Yeah, the city hall. Perfect. So the city hall is involved here, not here. The startups, the firms, or another, they are involved here. But we are trying to. This project does not exist yet. It's gonna be formalized for society in March of next year. So all these projects, it's here, but it's when we talk about City Hall involved and firms, we are talking about Pact for Innovation. So it's just for understanding this difference. Yes, the pact will be launched in March. But the alliance have a lot of other objectives, a lot of projects that are not involved in innovation. Yes, the alliance is running already. And the main project is the Pact for Innovation. Yeah, just this difference because it's important to know. Okay, I think I don't know it's understandable. Yeah. Yes, we have professors of all these three. We have a PhD student of all these three university. Yes. And the pact also. But the city hall is not here. The city hall is just here in this project. Yeah, exactly. And the association of startups, the firms that are enthusiastic for this project, they are all involved here, not here. The Alliance have other projects that have nothing to do with this innovation for our city. So, yeah. And the Pact for Innovation is led by the universities. So these questions about that, it's important because the other cities have the government with this head, with this. They try to do something for the city with the public managers. So here we have the universities involved here. So this is the main difference about this show. Sometimes maybe the interviewees will talk about this like the same because it's not clear for all about these concepts. We are doing now this difference to make it clear because these three universities they are cooperating. This is what is running now. Three universities are cooperating. Yeah, perfect. So when we are involving others, they take one project to talk about. So we are talking about most of Pact for Innovation. The interviews will say alliance and other words like that, but the main is Pact for Innovation. Okay, I don't know if you have any question about this. Professor will talk more about this, but just to make it clear. Yes, yes, it's about innovation in our city. The alliances go with other cities. We have share assets with the city of Unicinos Park that is around here in 45 minutes. It's another, it's broader than here. Here, the Pact for Innovation is for city of Porto Alegre. Yeah.
The government, the city, and the institutions, they take innovation. So they went to the universities for innovation. And university, to make a synergy, they created this alliance. Right?
Yeah.
Like so they don't have anything to do with the alliance. The university created this strategic alliance to serve
yeah, the three universities decided to do this alliance, not just competing, but cooperating also, and with a lot of projects. One project is with City Hall, called Pact for Innovation. One project. Okay.
So, shall I take a break?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back. So as promised, we have Professor André Azevedo from the economic department, and he will talk to us about Brazil and economic situation and other things about Brazil. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I believe you just arrived in Brazil. That's it. So I will try to be not too pessimistic about the prospect of our. Ah, tá. Tu pode passar? Eu tenho coisa para passar? Ah, tá. Então tá. Não. Aqui.
Mais ou menos está pegando essa área aqui toda. Só me dando aqui.
Ah, tá. So, basically, the idea of the presentation is to initially make a little introduction, talking about if really Brazil is the country of the future or not, showing two prospects, a pessimistic and optimistic view of the Brazilian future. Second, I will talk very briefly about the external scenario, talking about the major risks that we can see this year and the next one. And finally, I will talk about the Brazilian domestic scenario, especially about the prospects of low growth and high fiscal deficits that we're facing right now. Please, next. Paul Krugman, I don't know if you know him, he's an American economist, a Nobel winner in 2008, international economist, that saying that Brazil had many opportunities to have economic takeoff, but it never happened. He says that there's an old joke in Brazil that we are the country of the future and always will be. You know, you cannot exploit our abundant natural resources, a huge area, huge population to become developed. So there are some problems, some obstacles that impede that we can get there. So please, the next slide. You can see important achievements that we got in the last 20 or 25 years. The first one is that after 2 decades of very, very high low growth, the economy is recovering from its worst recession. Into 2015 and 16, the Brazilian GDP shrunk by 8%. Please, the next. But the main problem when you look in the future is that how productivity gains are very, very small. Okay, and you know, in the long run, what determine growth is productivity. And I will compare Brazil with China, with India, in other emerging economies. You see, Brazil is falling behind. Please, next. How inflation is under control for almost 25 years, which means that since 1994, when the real plan was launched, we finally reduced dramatically our inflation from 1 digit a year. In 1990, for example, 1993, our inflation reached more than 5,000% a year. So we finally for the last 25 years got a monetary stabilization. But the problem is that recently, in the next month at least, the inflation rate is approaching the central bank's target, which is 4.5% a year. For the first time in Brazil history, we became in 2009 a net external creditor, which means that our international reserves are larger than our external debt for the first time in our history. But the problem is that the cost of these international reserves is very, very high, which means, let me talk a little history about that. 15 years ago, Brazil got no more than 30 billions international reserves. Now we got almost 400 billion. So what happened? These dollars when enter our country, the central bank has to exchange using the exchange the exchange rate for reais. In order to avoid that we have a huge increase in currency circulation, we called the central bank has to, or the treasury has to externalize our reserves, which means that we have to issue bonds to sell in the market. And the collateral effect is that we pay a very high interest rates for these bonds. Today is something like 7% a year. And we invest our international reserves abroad, usually buying the treasury, US treasury bonds, which pays 3.5% a year. So there's a huge difference between what we get from our reserves and we pay here when we sterilize them. Please, the next one. And as you may know, you made the largest coverage of offshore oil that probably will make Brazil one of the major producers in 2025. But we have to avoid the risk of catching the so-called Dutch disease. It's a disease that's when we explore too much our natural resources, there are a lot of dollars, we export these products, a lot of dollars enter in our economy, and it could lead to appreciation of our exchange rate and causing problems for other sectors that are not too competitive, like the industrial sector, which could cause so-called deindustrialization of the economy. Okay? Well, you can see these are the long-run prospects. Now we talk about short-run problems or risks that our economy, the world economy actually is risking. The first one, as you may know, you are facing a period of lower international liquidity, which means that the low interest rate cycle, especially in developed countries, is ending. Okay, the U.S. Central Bank, the Fed, has increased the basic interest rates to 2% a year after almost a decade with zero interest rates. Obviously, these high interest rates in U.S. and a booming economy in the U.S. as well will attract capital to this country, what we call flight to quality. One consequence of this is dollars become stronger and stronger against the developing countries' currencies like real. Okay, and the second risk, major risk, is the trade war between U.S. and China. There is a huge increase in protectionism in U.S. and obviously China is retaliating. Okay, and you don't know where this trade war will stop. We can keep continuous during at least the next 2 years when Mr. Trump will or will not leave the White House. Okay, this trade war would cause a reduction in trade flows and obviously as a consequence in world growth. But the bright side of it, it may create opportunities to other countries to explore these two giant markets. So, for example, Brazil could increase its exports of soya bean, for example, to China, or other products as well. Okay, But I think the net effect of this trade war will be very bad for the world economy. Okay, please. As you can see here, the evolution of the Fed fund rates, as I told you before, for almost a decade, the basic interest rates in the United States was near 0%. Okay, in the last 2 years, they are increasing again. The next one show the current interest rates in many developed and developing economies. And as you may see, in black are the countries in which the interest rate is rising. Okay? There are some exceptions, like in Brazil, but probably this year, EU and Japan probably will increase interest rates again. Here I brought an interesting view, so-called the misery index, which obtained by adding up the unemployment rate and inflation rate. Okay, this index was created by an economist in the mid-60s, so-called Okun law. Okun was the name of the economist that created this index. And obviously, when you have a high unemployment and a high inflation, you make your people poorer. This is the idea. So, if you have a good economic policy, you expect that this index go down, and you have a bad economic policy, it usually goes up. Okay? I took the G20 countries in 2017, and you see Brazil is not in a very good position. It's fourth. Only Argentina, South Africa, and Turkey are in a worse position than Brazil. Okay? And obviously, you showed that the second highest unemployment rate and 80th highest inflation rate for G20. Okay. Please, the next one. And finally, when you look for the whole 21st century, we can see that while China and India are growing very fast, China almost 10% a year in this century, India is catching up with China with 7% a year. When you look at Brazil, how a growth is only 2.4%, lower than the world growth, which is 3.6, and much lower than the group of countries that we belong, the emerging countries, which grow to almost 6% a year. Okay, so Brazil is falling behind the emerging countries, not just emerging countries, but the world as a whole. Okay, and please notice, too bad that cannot be worse. How state, Rio Grande do Sul, is the situation is even worse. Okay. Our growth is the same of the United States, which is a developed country, so they don't need to grow as much as a developing country has to diminish poverty and so on. So it's a whole idea of the general idea comparing Brazil and our state with the world as a whole. Please, let's go now to see, I think the most important slide of this presentation is this one. Okay, I compare Brazil with the benchmark, which is United States. We have a very high productive level, labor productive level, and with some selected emerging economies. And as you see, I separate this period basically in two, which were, the first one was the period before the subprime crisis, and the second after it. And the last, I separate out as well the last 2 years. Okay? As you see, for the whole period, the Brazil growth in productivity was much lower than the world growth. Okay? Much, much lower. And if you see China and India, look at that. almost all GDP growth of these countries is based on productivity growth. On the contrary, for Brazil, our growth is based on putting more people to work. Okay? With low scholarity, which actually reduces productivity. Okay? And if you compare here, it means that we need 4 Brazilians to produce what one American doing in a year. Okay? In China, I'll already catch up with Brazil. Okay, so what it means for a competitiveness of a country? China, you know, the wages are going up, but they are still much lower than in Brazil. Okay, so Brazil is losing dramatically competitiveness for the whole 21st century, and the perspectives are, as you may see, is not very good for the future. Okay, please let's go. I will talk a little bit about the Brazilian domestic scenario as well, especially growth, inflation, and fiscal deficit. You have a general election next weekend, and you have 2 ways here, one for the right and one for the left, okay? And as you see, the weather is very cloudy. Yeah? Any choice you can make, okay? So, what lies ahead? I joke in the beginning of my presentation, I think the future is not very bright for Brazilian economy, unfortunately. Let's go. As I told you before, how GDP growth is very low. We have a slow economic recovery. As I told you before, in 2015 and 16, we got the worst ever recession. GDP shrunk by around 8%. And the main cause of this recession was the mismanagement of economic policy, especially fiscal policy, as we will see. Okay? Please. Last year, our economy grew by 1%, but you still have a huge fiscal deficit and a rising debt who terrorize our economic perspectives. And the economic plans of both presidential candidates are very vague. So they are not giving a good answer to solve these problems here. Okay? It's not actually clear how they would deal with these main economic problems that we are facing. So here I brought you, since the beginning of this century, the GDP growth and per capita, GDP per capita growth in Brazil, as you see, is very unstable. Okay? And as I told you before, 2015 and 16, you have a huge recession here. Okay? If everything goes right from 2019 until 2023, only there will be back to the same level we got in 2014. So you can have a kind of lost decade of economic growth. Okay? Please, next. Here is the way the economists identify a recession. The quarterly GDP has to decrease for at least 2 quarters. Okay, so since our stabilization plan, so-called Real, in 1994 until now, we got 6 recessions in Brazil. The old average is only 3 recessions in this period. Okay, so we have much more recessions than other countries. And as you can see here, I put it, I name it, each one of these crises. And the last one, who lasts for 8 quarters or 2 years, I call it Dilma's, the name of our last president, Dilma's effect, the mismanagement of economic policy. Okay? And the recovery, as you can see, is not very strong. Okay? Impeached 2 years ago. Yeah. this is actually there was a lot of corruption, but this is the main cause. The very bad management of economic policy. Please, let's go. And as a consequence, when the economy is not going well, the unemployment rise. Okay, so until 2014, this data are quarterly as well. There is a trend, and unemployment decreases along during the year. Okay, it happened 2012, 13, 14. With the crisis, the unemployment grew, disregarding the seasonality, expected seasonality that we have. The good news, at least one good news, is that after reaching a peak here in 2017 and this year, the unemployment rate is going down, but the level is still too high. Okay, if you compare 2018 to 2014 2, for example, is almost the double. Okay, so it's too high, but the good news is finally decreasing. Okay, and here we have our inflation rate accumulated in 12 months, and the Brazilian basic interest rates, which we call Selic. Okay, so this is the central bank target rate, 4.5% a year. And if you see during the Dilma's government, in never from 2011 until 2016, never the inflation was below the target. Okay, this is one consequence of this mismanagement of the fiscal policy. Okay, after 6 months he left office, look what happened with inflation. Declined for almost 11%, and 1 year after was very below the target rate, something like 3% a year. Okay, what happened? You see, the new government, which have many problems, the same problems that the Dilma's government also had, give a kind of credibility shock, changing completely the economists that were dealing with the economy. Okay, so the expectations about the future inflation declined dramatically after this credibility shock, and helped, obviously the recession helped as well to bring down the inflation rate. Okay, and the Brazilian basic interest rate, which was very high, also with declining inflation, the central bank could also decrease the interest rate. Next, please. Well, here we got our main problem. Okay, the primary balance, fiscal balance, shows small improvement in 2017, but it's still very, very high, as you see. And obviously, low growth doesn't help to recovery revenues, and the high level of expenditures avoid a faster improvement of this indicator. The overall balance, the difference between primary balance and overall balance basically is the payment of interest, okay? Which in Brazil is almost 6% of GDP a year. The overall balance, which is very high, also declined to 7.8% of GDP, 2017. But the gross debt achieved almost 75% of GDP. Is very high when you compare with other emerging countries, as you see in a few minutes. Okay, so and not only is very high, but it increased very, very fast in the last 4 years, more than 20 percentage points. Okay, and how the government is dealing with this increase in debt is exactly is financed mainly through issuance of government bonds, as I told you before. So how internal debt is increasing very fast, and you pay a very high relative interest rates when you compare with other countries. Okay? Please, here we got these two indicators, the primary and overall deficit. As you see, until the 2013, until the crisis, economic crisis, you got a surplus in primary balance. And after that, with the economy entering recession, the revenues go down and the expenditures start to increase even faster. Okay? And here I will try to explain you what happens. As you may recall, in 2008 and 9, we got the subprime crisis. Okay? How the countries deal with this crisis? Using, we call it a Keynesian economic policy, which means, on the one hand, decrease taxes to stimulate private consumption and investment, and on the other hand, increasing expenditures. Okay? And it worked out. It solved the problem for many countries. Many countries could recover from the big recession that suffered during this period using these policies. Brazil did the same thing. Okay? But the problem is that our president think that same policy could be used forever, even after the economy start to recover. So our deficit start to increase year after year. Okay, and as you see in the next slides, what happened in this situation? What if the market, if the consumers, the firms think that the situation could not be maintained for the long run? What they do? They reduce their spending because the risk of unemployment increases. Okay, and the firms, there's a risk of a sudden adjustment. Okay, which means increasing interest rates or increasing taxes. So there's a kind of anticipation effect. So even if the government, as you know, the composition of GDP is basically consumption, investment, and government expenditures, okay? Even if you have a 2 or 3% increase in the government spending, if you have a decrease in consumption investment that is higher than this 2 or 3%, the GDP as a whole will go down. This is exactly what happened in Brazil. So the economy entering recession, especially or principally, mainly by this management of economic policy. Our president, unfortunately, was an economist, a very bad economist, okay? So she saw that she could manage the economy and all the things. The former president, President Lula, almost an illiterate man, they give this economic policy to people who understand it, you know, so he could have a very good prospect in economic policy during this 8 years in office. Okay, well, as I told you before, you increase your debt. The way to pay for it is issuing bonds, and then the debt increases. As you see, from 2013 to 2017, I told you before, the debt increased by more than 20 percentage points. Okay, and here, if you compare Brazil with other countries, considering the public expenditure, our level of expenditure is almost the same of the average of developed countries, as you see, as a share of GDP, almost the same. Huh? Much higher than the emerging countries and low-income countries. Okay, please, and the revenues are also much higher than the emerging countries, and not as high as the developed countries, but for the level of development of our countries considered too high as well. Okay, I will try to show you, if you could back a little bit. There is a site here which I use in a few minutes, if you can go back 1 or 2 slides here from IMF, and you can compare some fiscal indicators showing how bad the Brazilian situation is. Please. Next one. So there is a economic literature that shows that the effects of public spending on growth in the long run for countries like Brazil, in which the public debt GDP ratio is above 6%, actually is negative. Okay, considering what I told you a few moments ago. Okay, please. When the debt is right, increasing public spending signals a debt crisis in a sudden adjustment process characterized by increasing taxes and interest rates. So this anticipation effect that I told you before. Okay, so it affects economic aging expectations, and then they reduce private consumption and investment. Okay, I think this summarizes what happened in Brazil and why, while the world is growing in that period, Brazil was in a huge recession. There was no external problem. It was just mismanagement of the economic policy by a president that thought she was more intelligent than actually she was. Okay? And finally, this is the last slide that I will show you, what the current government that succeed President Dilma is doing. Okay? They pass in Congress a expenditure limit, which means that the primary spending could not be higher than inflation. The current spending this year could not be higher than the inflation of the last year. Okay, and this is a revolution in Brazil, because in the last 20 years, every year, the spending grew more than inflation and than the GDP. So the share of the spending in GDP has been growing for 2 decades at least. So for the first time in 20 years, we will guarantee that the share will be at least constant. Second, they tried to pass a pension reform, which was not actually approved. Okay, and finally, as I told you before, a credibility shock, putting a very renewed economists in central bank, in treasury, etc., etc. Okay. Oh, this fiscal austerity obviously improve expectations. Okay, as we saw before, inflation rate falls from 11% to 3% a year, and as a consequence, interest rates declines as well. Okay, so we got until here. Okay, we have as I told you before, a slow recovery, from what 4% fall in GDP to a 1% increase last year. But this is the point, as this reform, which is essential to resolve the fiscal deficit in Brazil, was not approved, we could not increase expectation as much to allow a higher GDP growth, which in turn will provide as well a higher employment and a lower unemployment rates. So what we expect for the next president, that he can deal with these reforms, especially pension reform. Last year, our deficit in pension was like 200 billion reais, which almost $50 billion, 50 billion a year, okay? Just 1 year. So it's our main problem. If you cannot solve the pension problem, you cannot resolve our fiscal deficit. And as I told you before, the 2 candidates could not show, at least to this moment, what reform they are aiming, especially the pension reform. The plans are very vague. Don't know yet how they could do this. And without this, Brazil will still keep growing 1.5% a year, which is much below expected rate of growth, which now natural rate of growth is now 2.5%, 3% a year. Okay. Well, I think that's it. If you can just go back a little bit to show them the site, that's it. If you can access the site, please, for us. Yes, exactly. Okay, perfect. Overall balance, okay? Please click here, in any part of here, okay? It's opening, okay, okay? So if you can down a little bit, you can compare. The Brazil deficit is much higher than the emerging market economies. If it's 3 and almost 4%, ours is almost the double. Okay, you can research here for any country you are interested. Okay, you show for each country this information. If you could come back a little bit, back. Okay, and go down here and here gross debt position. A little bit down here as well. I told before, Brazil is 74%, if you recall. For the emerging and market mid economy is only 50%. So not just increasing very quickly, but much higher than the emerging countries as well. Okay? And obviously, Brazil needs external savings to invest as well. How a level of investment, the share of investment to the GDP in Brazil is only 15%. It's very, very, very low. In China, it's almost 50%. Okay, so we need external capital to invest, and obviously they are not very likely to invest looking at this fiscal situation, this high deficits and high and growing debt, gross debt. Okay, so I finished my presentation. I tried to not be too pessimistic, but as I told you before, it's possible that the next president could deal with this fiscal deficit. It's possible, but I think my main concern is with the long run. Okay, because you have to improve your productivity to keep growing in our rates like China and India have done in the last few decades. But the problem is that to improve productivity, you have to improve the so-called human capital, which depends in primary education. And the federal government in Brazil invests basically in undergraduate education, and the state and cities who invest in primary education. And most of the revenues are concentrated in the federal government, like 2/3 of the overall revenues in Brazil are concentrated in the federal level. Okay, so this is something we have to change. We have to invest much more in primary education than the undergraduate or graduate education. But no one of these two candidates are promising do something like that. So I don't see any perspectives to change how prospects regarding the long run growth due to this fact. Okay, I think that's it. I'm open to questions, okay, about our economy.
will, what happened is the opposite thing. Like for example, there are three shares for future, which is a drawback for the oil producer countries. Like one is like the Paris Agreement, got fully reached. Another one is the renewable. Like China and India was a big importer of oil. Now China is more looking forward and investing more in what the renewable. And another trade is like the LNG, the natural gas. So the world is more focusing on this sector. And renewable costs are going down. So in that case, what will happen if the export goes down in future? And what could, in your opinion, what would be the alternative plan, like other investment?
Yeah. Actually, Brazil, most of electricity is generated by water, not by other resources. So, but we are actually extracting something like 2.5 million barrels per day. Okay, 2.5 years. The world as a whole is extracting 100 million. So Brazil is almost 2.5% of the overall. And you can improve it for 6 or 7 million barrels if you can explore this oil. The so-called pre-sal that you call is a very, very deep, 7 kilometers into the ocean. So, but it's very, very costly to do that. So the international price should stay at least $40, $50 to make it profitable. Okay. And the other problem is that Petrobras, which is the Brazilian company that has the monopoly to explore the petrol in Brazil, has not the resources to fully exploit this natural oil. That is another problem. Is that, and as I told you before, the corruption that I think you have heard about Brazilian, the Lava Jato operation, etc., etc. Most of the corruption occur in these state companies like Petrobras. Okay, so we don't know if the next president will change the way the management is done, or you have political indications and not technical indication for key places in this company. So as I told you before, I'm not very optimistic about this prospect as well. And even if you could exploit these resources, we have the risk of having the Dutch disease as well. Okay, what happened in Holland, in Norway, exactly. Yes, the same problem. Actually, the deindustrialization is already happening in Brazil. The share of industry in our GDP is less than 20%. No, the main explorer is commodities, soya bean, for example, some minerals, and the only product which is we can call high technology that we export are airplanes from the company named Embraer. Okay, the only one, but it's decreasing. Okay, as well. Okay, so basically 50% of Brazilian exports are composed by commodities. Unfortunately, 50%, half our export. And in 2000 or 1995, it was only 1/3, and the other was industrial products. So we are losing space. And actually, if you see the position of all the exports, 1/3 is already high technological products. With the same share, if you look at Chinese exports, they export 1/3 of all is high-tech products. In Brazil, is less than 5%, which are these airplanes from Embraer, the only product that we export.
should retire this year because it turns 70.
70.
And retirement age in Norway is 70.
70.
And you can still keep working for 2 more years if you want to.
Mm.
If the company allows you to keep working until you are 72. And I told him, wow, it's a lot
Yeah.
less. And then he said, well, how can the government, provide pension to
Yeah.
everyone who's a pensionist?
Cool.
Because in Norway, 70, because of the pensionist.
Yeah.
You have 10 years more to
Yeah.
pension for a lot of people. It's a lot
Exactly.
of expenditures.
Mm.
So he was very impressed that Brazil needs
Mm.
to have this growth, but still
Mm.
the pension reform is not happening.
Yes, exactly.
Should be something urgent.
It depends on the profession, but some could retire with 50 years old. 50 years old. Yeah. 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 And the problem is that the life expectancy has been increasing a lot. So you have to change. You have to do a pension reform every 5 or 10 years, okay? And our last reform was made 15 years ago. So it was very late. It didn't change many, just a little adjustments, okay? Yeah. Unfortunately, no. The economy is. We're talking about culture and customs in Brazil. What is the science is that the economy is completely outside of discussions. This is why they are not dealing with these problems. Okay. Yeah. One candidate is completely ignorant. He's a military that he says, I don't know anything about economics. And he already elected a very good economist who trusts completely in him. I don't know anything about economics, so I put... but the other one from the left, I don't know what his background. Okay. Thank
This
you.
is a book about Stavanger, which
Oh,
is the region where the university is located. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. It was a
It was
pleasure.
a very nice context and a lot of comparisons and data that are very useful for the students to understand the
Okay.
situation of Brazil.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, I think now we have lunch break, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.